Wondering how your mindset affects your life? How to bring more energy into your business and life? Millions of people around the world ask these same questions daily. You are in the right place. Learn practices that will help give your life the meaning and success you've been searching for. Welcome to the Charge Podcast, teaching you how to create habits around real goals every day. Practical life advice from those who made it. Here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
It is great when someone sends you an email about the book you just published. Here's what they said. This book strikes at the heart of using the gifts God has given you, not only to be the best version of yourself, but also in being a steward that helps others find their best selves. Thanks, Mark Register, for sharing that with our listeners. As you know, my book recently launched as an Amazon bestseller. Cultivate Positive Culture, 10 Actions of Faithful Living is now available for purchase. As a listener to the Charge Podcast, I would love for you to get a copy of the book. I hear they make great stocking stuffers. You can go where you purchase books, or better yet, go to my site and order the book directly from us, and I will give you free shipping and handling since you are helping us with sharing our message to others. Just go to cultivatepositiveculture.com to get your copy today. Thanks for supporting the Charge Podcast by purchasing the book directly from us. Remember, all the details about ordering is at chargepodcast.com, where Chris does a great job sharing all the notes about the upcoming podcast. Check them out. The countdown is on, and we are 1 month from ending the first year of this decade of the 20s. Wow. I don't think any of us imagined 2020 would be the year of the pandemic. I know it has been a challenging year, but as Chargers, we have to get up each day and realize our choices make us who we are each day. In this final month of 2020, we have guests that will help you get clarity in your life, start to make a nutrition plan that will impact your health, steps to building a legendary life, and what you need to do to build mental performance. If you are feeling frustrated and stressed out with your professional or personal life, I know in each of these podcasts, the strategies that each guest shares can propel you to live a charged life in 2021. Chargers, are you committed to finding how each day they can make their life better by their willingness to learn, grow, and become the person you were meant to be? I think this quote I coined in my new book, Cultivate Positive Culture. Give yourself permission to charge each day to become the person you were meant to be. You made a great choice in listening to this podcast. Remember, the podcast is named Charge after my mantra, create habits around real goals every day. Let's get recharged in this podcast to influence a positive culture today so you can make the choices to be positive each day. Are you ready? Welcome, Chargers. We're glad you're back, and I want to share something with you. Can you believe 2020 is almost over? Yes, it is hard to believe 2020 is going to be a distant memory. And for some of us, we're pretty excited about it because 2020 was definitely a different year than we ever expected when we started out. The year of the pandemic is what it can be called. But the key is, what are we going to do to move forward in our life? As we talk about each podcast, we talk about our guests that we have come on, gives us different examples of how we can lead our life. So the question I ask you, what are you going to do differently in 2021? Well, the key is, what are you prepared to do? And I think it's about planning. You know, I have a quote that says goals. It's like having your headlights on because you know where you're going. Let's set our goals for 2021. And I tell you what I'll do. I'll help in the process. I will give you my form called the Yearly Target. It'll be in chargepodcast.com where you can download it. No opt-in or anything, but where you can download this sheet, and it's editable form. So if you want to type it up or maybe print it out, write it out first, then you can pretty it up by typing it up. Write out your goals this year and let's work to achieve those together. I'm working on mine now. I will have them finished by the end of the year so I can really get started in 2021 to accomplishing what I want to do each and every day. Now, in the fourth quarter, we had some great guests. So if you miss those, I want you to go back and listen to some of these because there's things you can learn. Like in Episode number 142, we had David Sears. He's a retired U.S. Navy SEAL, and he was active in the military, but he didn't tell us about the Navy SEALs experience, but he told us what he learns, those leadership lessons that he learned through operating in chaotic, dynamic, and ambiguous high threat environments. That's kind of like what we were in 2020. So let's go out and see how those lessons apply to us. Now, listen to this short clip and then go back and check out episode 142.
CRISP thinking. CRISP is an acronym, and I'll give you the acronym, but it's not important. It guides a way that we teach and some pieces that work together as a Venn diagram, but it's more what thought does it represent, CRISP thinking. So it stands for critical creativity, reflective reframing, iterative ideation, systemic synthesis, and possible futures. Okay, that's not important to remember. What it is that it's how to think about complex problems, how to see the world differently. I've told you before that it's important that we differentiate between complicated and complex. For me, complicated is, think about complicated has a solution. Cause and effect are apparent to an expert. Complex is you cannot know what's going to happen. There is no way. The only way to see cause and effect in a complex world is in retrospect. So you can look back and piece together the events, but you cannot know going forward. And that's usually the environment that we live in.
Now, in episode number 143, my friend Tom King, he talked about really what it is like have a personal passion for food. Most of us like to eat it, right? And he had that passion at one point too, but he decided to get in his optimal health. And how can you really be a successful entrepreneur and really build on your impact that you can make and your big why? Listen to this podcast and you'll learn something from it.
No, I don't think people realize how much sugar they're consuming, because it's a lot. And the way that you know how much sugar that you're consuming is by doing a little bit of label reading. So when you pick up a bottle of ketchup, at your grocery store, if you look on the back of it, you're going to see that the number one ingredient is either high fructose corn syrup or sugar. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me, well, hey, the food companies are doing this to get us addicted to their products. And my answer to that is absolutely not. No, they are not doing that. Food companies don't look to get people addicted to their products. That's just the secondary effect of having a lot of sugar in it. The reason that there's so much sugar in our food is because sugar is so cheap. Sugar is a subsidized industry. So they get government money, which means that the sugar industry can sell sugar for less than what it costs them, because then they're getting money back from the government for that.
Now, episode 144 was a real treat because my friend Derek Phillips interviewed me for my book, Cultivate Positive Culture, 10 Actions to Faithful Living. It's the first time I was ever on my own podcast as a guest. But I want you to listen to this because I talk about the 10 actions and why you should pick up a copy of the book. And really, that's what I talk about all the time. We hear material, but we have to really decide what actions do we decide to put in place. So listen to this little clip and then go check out episode 144. I choose to have a great attitude, and I'm a happy person, and I will have a positive attitude towards others. It's been a tough 2020. Let's all admit that. COVID's been tough, the challenges that it's created. But we have to decide, we have to choose if we're going to have that positive attitude. I love what Charles Swindoll says. 10% is what happens to us. 90% is how I respond and I react to it. We have a choice. When bad things happen, we have a choice to have a good attitude. But do we walk in to our offices, or if we're on a Zoom call, or if we're on the phone with someone, or we meet someone, do we share that attitude that, yes, I'm helpful, I want to be positive? And I guarantee you, it will make a huge difference in your relationships, personally and professionally, if you have one of those great attitudes. Now, in episode 145, Jen Thornton shared with her expertise in talent strategy and leadership professional development. because the key is we have to help companies to get that growth. We have to change how we're hiring people. And she really shared hiring, retaining, and developing a pipeline of top talent, how to do that. So make sure you listen to episode 145. Listen to this short clip and then go check out the complete episode.
The first thing is we have to get honest about the work. And this involves the executive group, whoever is setting the tone for the company. And the reason we have to start with getting honest about the work is, number one, when you look at the work we do, some of it isn't necessary. And that's the first thing we have to do, is clean out unnecessary work. And when I sit down and talk to executives and we start talking about what's important, I always say, is this mission critical? If we didn't do this, it would impact our sales. Is this a nice to do? Because there's a lot of nice to do that we need to do. Or is this habit and we just think we're supposed to, and we've got to break that habit? Or, and this is where they just always go, is it vanity work? Because executives expect so much vanity work. And then that person who's doing that work's like, why do I have to redo this just so they can see it when I can just hit a button? And so they lose their purpose. And so we have to get really clear on vanity work and removing that vanity work and getting clear on what needs to be done to drive the business. And then how do we think about that work? Is it full-time? Is it part-time? Is it a blend? There's a lot of different ways to look at how to do the work once you get really clear on what needs to be done.
Now, in episode 146, I had fun with Peter Winnick. He is a CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage. And what his expertise is, how do we wrap that thought leadership up? How do we make ourselves a thought leader? I'm working on that myself. But even if you're not a thought leader, you may want to check this out, because what makes you different than anyone else? And Peter shares some great strategies that all of us could use in episode 146. So check out this clip.
Yeah, so the way I would start, if we're at sort of ground zero, if you will, is starting backwards. Start with the end in mind. What are the goals? What am I trying to achieve? And it could be, on the one hand, don't really have any goals. This just seems like a lot of fun. Okay, that's cool. If I were to invest in something that didn't have specific goals or was just fun, I'd call it a hobby, and I would limit my investments, right? If it's about marketing and standing out from the crowd, if it's about net new client acquisition, be really clear about what the goals are and then work backwards. So, okay, if my goal is to stand out from my competition, okay, how will I know if I achieve that? Second thing is, who cares? Meaning, who is it that you're creating this thought leadership for? With a very, 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 I would start with a high level of specificity. So constraints actually lead to freedom, which is sort of counterintuitive.
Now, in our next episode, 147, Clint Paget shares with us his entrepreneurial experience of what he's learned and really how remote work environments work in this time. Of course, in 2020, we've seen this become a very prevalent side of things. But what changes, and how do you get into project management and make sure that it's moving forward and that you're holding everyone accountable, even when they're not in the same location and they're working remotely, or maybe even different countries? And Clint shares his expertise in this area. So check out episode 147.
But I tell the engineer that wants to sit in that silo and be kind of by him or herself, listen, if engineering is developing products that marketing can't sell, are we the company going to make any money? And of course the answer is no. And if marketing is out there pitching products that engineering can't build, is company making money? No. So the only way to be successful in a for-profit environment is if marketing and engineering are on the same team, working together in a collaborative way. And how about let's get together at the very front of the project and have that hard conversation. And it can be difficult because, of course, marketing says we want it all, and engineering, you should be able to do it. And engineering says, well, you ask for things that particle physics doesn't allow for. So you have to have that hard conversation, because in my world, at the end of the day, everybody wants the company to be successful. And the only way to do that is to be collaborative and collaborate on these things and work together. So I use that as an example of why we have to pull people out of their silos.
Now, I just love this podcast because episode 148 was my good friend now called Jared Curry. He's 18 years old. Maybe he's 19 by now that I'm saying this, but he's a young entrepreneur and has started a CEO of Scope Marketing. And he shares some marketing secrets with us that you need to check out. Do you need to improve your marketing in 2021? Maybe it's marketing yourself. Maybe it's marketing your business, but you really need to check out what Jarrett shares with us. He may be 18 years old, but he's got a wealth of knowledge. So check out episode 148.
Number one, if you don't track your stats, if you don't track sales coming in, you will always make emotional decisions rather than logical decisions. For example, we track our sleep. People are tracking their sleep now. I have an Oura Ring, by the way. It tracks my sleep every night. I'm tracking my sleep. I'm tracking what I eat. I track my workouts. But a lot of people are not tracking their marketing. And I see it every day. So one of the beautiful things about Facebook is that they give us the ability to track everything, as well as Google, as well as TikTok. They give us something called a pixel or a tag. And that pixel data is going to allow us to track who goes on your website. What do they do on your website? Did they make a purchase? How much did they pay for a certain item? Where did they come from? So if you're spending $1 on marketing, you should know that that dollar is going to get you $2, $3, $4 back.
Now, 149 was a lot of fun because Dr. James Richardson really shares about strategic planning and growth solutions for a business. And he talks about his book that really made a difference there. So you need to check out this podcast because Dr. Richardson really shares some insight on what we need to do if we want to really make our brand stick out. And that is in episode 149. Listen to this clip.
90% of people are just going to the store, they're going to shop the shelf, or they're going to ask a friend if they want a really exotic, premium, modern toothpaste. So that's coming from word of mouth. So if you don't create a relationship with your consumers, they don't feel as passionate about your brand. They're less likely to talk about you. Suddenly you become interchangeable. And now you have a problem on your hands. And that problem in my world is called repeat purchase, because you can't really scale like a grocery brand if you're not getting at least 20% of the people to keep buying it again and again. Now, that presumes there's a relationship. So now it actually is, there's a parallel between B2B and B2C, is that there needs to be a relationship. But creating that relationship is really hard.
Now you need to check out episode 150 because Dolores Hirschman shares with us her strategy of what she has. And the thing is, she's the Chief Clarity Officer and has a master's in clarity. So do you need to get more clear on what you want your goals and what you want to accomplish in 2021? This would be a podcast to check out because Dolores really breaks it down how we can clarify our message and really implement what we want to do for our life. Now, you have to take it from the business standpoint, but if you're thinking about personally, she shares some great secrets there that will be beneficial also. Check out this clip in episode 150.
Yeah. So one of the things that entrepreneurs struggle with, and I've seen it men and women, this is not a gender thing, is self-doubt. And, you would think an entrepreneur is very courageous and a high risk taker. And that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true for many of us. I would say I would call myself risk cautious. And many of us are risk averse. And so all of us want that for someone to tell us, okay, give me that one idea or that one positioning or that one product that it's just going to make it. And there's no such thing. And you know that, and I know that it's about consistency and commitment over the one idea that will make it. I believe that while ideas are important, ideas are plenty. It's the proper execution of ideas that will gain you traction. So people are looking for that magic wand that says, this is the one, now you're clear on what you're doing, go do it. And so they hold back because they're not so clear. They're not so sure. And that game of self-doubt stops us from taking action.
Now it's coming up the end of 2020. And a lot of people put on their New Year's resolution, I want to become more healthy. Well, this episode 151 by Nina Venturla shares she's a certified nutrition specialist and a personal trainer and a nutritionist. So I tell you, I kind of liked having this on because I wanted to learn more about nutrition this year. And she shared a wealth of knowledge. So you need to really check out this podcast from Nina, because if you're thinking about improving your health in 2021 and you want to make your health a priority, this is a podcast that you'll learn something from. So check out episode 151 right now and listen to this clip, and then make your life healthier this next year.
I think the key for me, and I try to tell people, is, there's no guarantees you're going to get a home run, but if you don't ever go to bat, you're never going to know. And I am not, here's the good and here's the bad. I'm going to be honest with you. The good is I put it out there. The bad is sometimes when you put it out there, it's not perfect. And the public, the masses, get to see the imperfect, and they get to see the part of it where you're growing through it. So it's called growing pains. Now, those who really believe in you, they'll stick through those growing pains, and those who don't, they won't. And that's okay. You want those that will stick with you, that are loyal. And I did that with Extract, because I put it out there and I was evolving it as it was out there, and it was in the public. It was in the public eye. So there's some persecution that took place because people thought they could do it better. And I'm like, well, if they could have, then God would have gave that gift to you. But he thought he knew I could do it, right? He also knew I was doing it. I'm going to do it. You tell me to do something, you give me a gift, I'm going to put it out there. That's what it's for. Gifts are to share, not to hoard.
Now, some of you, if you've not checked out episode 152, Tommy Breedlove, he is like my brother from another mother. He is a great guy, and he's wrote a book called Legendary. But the thing about Tommy, he really shares what it makes difference, the skills that you need to master your mindset, and what you need to do to become legendary. What do we want to do this next year for 2021? When you're thinking of your goals, how will you become legendary? Now, this is the key. Check out this podcast, because I'm telling you, there's some great information here that will really propel you forward in 2021. So check out episode 152, Tommy Breedlove.
So to me, I'm gonna tell you what living a legendary life means to me. And there's a definition for everyone. But for me, it's about living life with purpose, meaning, and significance. And purpose, meaning, and significance is something greater than ourselves. The second thing is we all struggle with time, being overwhelmed and stressed and feeling like we don't have enough. So living a legendary life is about conquering your time. And it's about building a financial mindset and financial confidence, leading toward financial freedom. And I'm I was a financial guy for 22 years. But anyone can learn the skills, the mindset, and apply things into their daily lives, regardless of where you are with your money, to build financial confidence mindset toward financial freedom. It's about cutting out the noise in society and filling your cup with goodness, investing in yourself first. But it's also the intangible things too. We talked about it, mastering your mindset, developing unconditional love and self-respect for yourself, and ultimately having more intimate and better and healthier and loving relationships with your significant other, your family, your friends, and your network.
Now, my last podcast of the year, and not last for any reason besides we had to come to a close again. Episode 153, Ryan Carr. There is some real nuggets that you can get out of this, because he's a certified mental performance consultant. He's worked with sports psychology, all the things, athletes, and what makes them better. But the thing is, what we did is we really took how you live with your passion, presence, and optimism to positively impact people to maximize their potential. So do you want to maximize your potential in 2021? Then this podcast, you should go back and listen to if you haven't listened to it. Maybe even if you did listen to it, you should listen to it again. It's episode 153 with Ryan Carr. Listen to this little clip and then go back and listen to the full podcast.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point, and that is taking breaks. And if I have a 2-hour time slot, I'm going to do much better. And I mean, it's research-based. There's no denying it. I'm going to do much better if I take a 10-minute break after 45 minutes or so, or an hour max, right? Get up, walk around, clear the mind, go grab a sip of water, do a couple stretches, but change your physical state, right? Especially if you're sitting. So just get up and take a break, walk away from it. And then the other thing that I think is critical is there's 2 things I always ask my performers when they show up to any training session. whether that be a sport training session, a business training session, is 2 questions. What time is it and where are we? And we always start with that. Before we even say hello, Johnny, what time is it? And the answer that I want is it's now. And then where are we? Here. Okay, and just asking yourself that question or writing it down on your laptop. What time is it? Where am I? Right here and now is huge.
Now, Chargers, we had a great fourth quarter. It was an excellent fourth quarter of guests. But the best part is we've got a great first quarter of guests lined up for you. And we've got some jam-packed sessions that will really make a difference in your life. But I need you to do me a favor. First off, I want to help you. I want you to go out and get my yearly target. And the way you'll do that is go to thechargepodcast.com, and I've got a download for you to be able to download and so you can write out your goals for 2021. So first, go do that. And then the second thing I need you to do, I need you to like and share our podcast. I need you to go to whatever platform you're on and really put down a reason that you listen to the podcast. Give us that testimonial. We are growing our podcast each and every week, but we need new listeners because that allows us to expand out. I had some research where we've now have covered over 60 different countries we are in, over 60 different countries, but we've also got all 50 states. Our podcast numbers keep going up, but I need your help to keep it out there and let other people know about it. So I hope as you end this 2020 year, you look back and you really ask yourself, what was the great things that did happen in 2020? For me, we slowed down. We had a lot more family time. Yes, it was different, but the thing is, I found certain pieces that I really want to put into my life. And one of those was I've always done a morning routine, but I really worked on restructuring what my morning routine was, getting up early enough so I have that me time. So as you go out this year, I want you to think about what is something that you want to really get started and make it a habit this next year. Remember, this is the Charge Podcast for a reason. Create habits around real goals every day because we want you to be able to charge in business and life. Thanks for joining us in 2020. Come back in 2021 because we've got some great guests set up for you, and we can't wait to share them with you. Make it a great day. Happy New Year. Here's a short description of the book, Cultivate Positive Culture. Lloyd, a truck driver from Forward Trucking Inc., has a random encounter with death while making his way back home. Lloyd, who is short on faith and options, finds himself in the largest downward spiral of his life. He meets an unexpected traveler who sees something in him that Lloyd couldn't find on his own. Together, through a new sense of faith and reason, Lloyd discovers his life's calling. I'm so excited to launch this book, and I appreciate your help. Remember, get your copy today at cultivatepositiveculture.com. Thanks for supporting the book.
This podcast is ended, but your life doesn't just stop. To continue your inspiring journey, head over to chargepodcast.com and access all the tools and resources mentioned on today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing with somebody who may also benefit from the advice provided. That's chargepodcast.com. Until next time, charge in business and life.